already met, as well as some other friends in the room today, um, for a quick fireside chat. So I'm going to call on again Mr. Rahul Ora, President and CEO of Manulife Philippines, former Health Undersecretary Dr. Tayag, and we have, in case you haven't noticed, Mr. Irwan Yusuf, Manulife's brand ambassador over here. And since we keep talking about nutrition and diet, we have Miss Beatrice Mercado. She is a registered nutritionist and dietitian. And we are now complete. Okay, so I guess we'll just go straight into it, right? Younger Filipinos are getting more sick. And younger Filipinos do not think enough about protection. My question is, when is the right time to actually say, bite the bullet, take the big jump and say, okay, I'm gonna get life insurance? How young do you have to be?
I think from age 0. But okay, jokes aside, I think what we always insist and promote through our advocacy is that one should start planning for savings or protection needs the day you start earning. Because how typically Filipinos look at life is, earnings minus spending is equal to savings. So whatever we earn, we would try to spend it muna, then we try to save, because that spending gives you all the quick pleasures of life and gives you that sense of achievement that you earned something. But what we are promoting is that's not how you look at life. The way you look at life is earnings minus savings is what you spend. So you first put up a savings plan for yourself. You need to figure out how much from that earning you need to save. Thumb rule across all financial, literacy programs is about 20%. And then whatever you are left with, you need to ensure that you're able to, keep your expenses matched to that. And that is the thumb rule. That is what we promote. And with that logic, you should start saving the day you start earning.
Okay, so after school, when you
Yes.
get a job, you have to start. Erwan, did that hold true for you? Did you start thinking about it as soon as you graduated from college? You start thinking about all these financial things?
I feel like if anyone in their 20s kind of feels invincible, so no, I didn't. But I have a kid now, and my plan next year, actually, we're going to be starting a fictitious bank at the house. I think my parents didn't teach me about finances. You don't learn about financial health in school either, which I think is a little weird. So in our household, what we start doing is we have this fictitious bank where Dahlia has a monthly amount that she can place with the bank, which is me, and then she'll earn interest every month if she keeps it, so growing her wealth. So it's something that I think about now as a father, something that I would have loved to know as someone who was younger. So I do think financial health is extremely important. People don't necessarily talk about it enough. So definitely education is the most important thing.
Interesting point about your financial bank. I might take out the loan. But Dr. Tayag, coming from the public health perspective, how applicable really, is it for a Filipino to start thinking about these things? And have you met any Filipinos who actually thought about saving and financial planning for health expenses?
Well, if you're one of those lucky Filipinos wherein your employer has included as one of your benefits to have actually an insurance card, aside from the fact that every Filipino is a PhilHealth member, then you may just be satisfied with that. But please remember that even with PhilHealth, the benefits, and even with insurance companies, the benefit coverage would vary. So depending on your decision whether or not this is enough for you, you're satisfied with that, and the factors that influence your decision, I told you the 3 decisions one has to make. So for example, when someone tells me that he smokes a couple of packs of cigarettes a month, then I would just tell him, well, what about 5,000 pesos every week? So by the time that it catches on you, you can pay for your coronary bypass. What I'm saying is that for every decision we make, Sean, there are factors that can be beyond your control. You cannot see it. There's some sense of uncertainty. And just like everyone, when I was young, it's clothes, it's books, it's food, it's entertainment, insurance, nah. But I hope that everyone is convinced what Mr. Raul has said, that better start young and better find a company that gives you already these perks.
Yeah, I'd like to
I know
add-
some OFWs have these perks, Sean.
Also, if you start young, your premiums are much cheaper, right? So it actually makes sense. But we can head off all of this. I think one key finding in the study is also nutrition is so, I don't know, I think are we allergic to the word nutrition? We seem to find it so hard. Now I understand everyone's busy. But of course we do have Erwan here who makes food look very interesting and kind of reachable. We also have Beatrice, who's a registered nutritionist and dietitian. Beatrice, in your opinion, did the results of the study really reflect the state of where Filipinos are in terms of nutrition, in terms of how misguided we are, how we want to try, how aware we are, but we can't seem to commit?
Yeah, it actually does. So there's too much information. Like sometimes people rely so much on Google, TikTok, YouTube. And then there's also a lack of information as what the survey showed earlier. So it's really getting the right information and the information that works for you, for your health, because everyone's different. And we have to assess ourselves in terms of our own health. It works for us, not just, what we heard on TikTok and all that. So we really have to know that as well. So also beyond that, we also have to inform ourselves, and I think it really starts with getting the right information at hand, and more than that, applying it in such a way that we're gonna commit to it. People are struggling because one factor is that we're busy, but more than that, are we really busy? Because if we have time to browse on the internet, diba? Parang you have time to browse all night. So definitely you have time to meal prep, to know the proper knowledge, the right sources, the right information at hand. So there's AI. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of AI, but also I make sure that I counter it with the right journals to back up. So yeah, that's one thing that Filipinos have to, I think, really ingrain and really have to adapt, which will take time.
Erwan, I know you for your vlog, the Fat Kid Inside, which I think is a kind of autobiographical. I think you were a fat kid and then you've been trying to just find ways to change your lifestyle. And earlier we were having a chat and you said it that it's kind of a mindset thing with Filipinos. We tend to look for a solution that is a quick fix without thinking that this should actually be more of a long-term thing. This is of course in terms of diet and exercise and general lifestyle.
I think there are three main issues that I usually see. Is first, some people tend to use information as a crutch, thinking there's too much information online, I'm still not 100% sure, I'm just not going to start. The second one is our perspective of what healthy food is, because of pictures and things that we see. We see salmon on a quinoa salad, we see things like Greek yogurt with granola and all these things, and that paints an unattainable picture of what healthy nutrition is. And I tell people all the time, if you look at your basic Filipino dishes that everyone knows how to cook at home, things like sinigang, bulalo, tinola, pinakol, laing, laswa. There's so many pinakbet. There's so many naturally healthy Filipino dishes that we don't necessarily see as Filipino because of two main causes. One is we tend to cook them with shortcuts nowadays. But if you were to talk to your kind of great grandmother, if she's around, if people make things from scratch, you know exactly what you're putting in the food. It's generally healthy and good for you. And it's important just to eat in the right proportions, because we tend to eat an excess of things that we know are not great for us, right? So, you know, people generally know what's good and what's not good for them. People know that there's no good amount of alcohol. People know that sodas are full of sugar and they're not great. But there are two ways to go. It's, you know, your wants and your needs, right? And these two things need to converge at one point. I think a lot of people a lot of people need good nutrition, need to have that information, and need to start committing to something. But if the want is not there, you'll never really commit to it. That's why the mindset is there. So what I usually encourage anyone to do is set an amount of time that you're willing to commit yourself to a way of eating, to a lifestyle. But that has to be more than a week. Because people will be like, all right, I'm just going to stop eating rice for a week. I'm going to stop drinking beer for a week. But in a week, you won't see any changes, right? So anytime, I've done all the diets out there, anything from the cabbage soup diet. I fasted once for a week, only drinking water and coffee for 1 week. And I did all this just to, I don't have the scientific background, but I just wanted to experience it and have kind of that information for myself. And it was all to really see how my body would react, so that I would understand my body and see what works best for me. And the number one rule that I saw that throughout all the diets, the most important time is really that commitment over 3 months. In 3 months, you really do see your body react. And then you can decide, okay, is this for me? No, then I'll move on and try something else.
Dr. Tayan, it looks like you wanted to add something?
Yeah, you caught my eye. So, I wanted to ask Erwan because he continues to visit so many local cultures and he has explored so many things about local food. Was there in any of your visits to these areas, Erwan, that somehow gave you an impression that the locals value food as medicine rather than just as nutrition? Because that can change the equation if we think food as medicine rather than food
That's
as
Hippocrates,
for
right?
sustenance.
I think, yes, I mean, there's a whole book called The Ancient Filipino Diet, which I think is really interesting that a lot of people should read. But it does look at food primarily as a source for your body to survive, and therefore also a way to kind of cure ailments that you might have. So we have lots of problems in Metro Manila and most of the big cities in the Philippines, but once you go to more remote places, remote communities, you still see food being practiced as medicine, and also food in two ways, especially in farming communities. This is the type of food that I'm producing for export for my livelihood. These are the types of food that I will be making for myself to survive. And a lot of the times, people are very conscious of what they put in their body. And the number one, each time they do need something treated, the number one thing that usually they go for is, okay, let's go foraging for this particular bark or this particular herb or root that we know would be healthy for us. So yeah, it's very intriguing when you go out there.
Another thing that also, I'm addressing Beatrice now, you said the word habit. And it just makes me think, like, when it's hard to break a habit, it's easier to create a habit, but when should that start? A lot of my habits, I realize now that I'm older, were instilled by my parents, right? Erwan, you might have some input also, because we were just talking about your house bank. So a lot of that is what I eat, how I think about food, what's in the fridge. These are like all from my parents. So just some insight on how we can break these habits, and really, how long does it take to make a habit or break one?
So before it was said that it was 21 days, but now it's more than that. It's actually 35. So that's a start. That's only a start. But the question is, how long is it for you that's gonna take? It depends. It really depends on your commitment. But when it comes to starting a habit, my go-to advice is start bit by bit. So smaller is better. So you don't want to have a habit or have a goal rather, and then have a huge goal. Let's say I want to eat healthier, I want to do this, I want to achieve this weight, and then after that, I'm going to do, let's say, an hour of exercise a day. I'm going to eat more vegetables a day or fruits a day. It's not going to work. Because at the end of the day, your brain is going to overwhelm you, and then you're going to go back to your previous habits, thinking that it's too much, not going to work for me. The ideal way is to just do it smaller, bit by bit. So 1% every day, and then after that, you just know that it's going to get better. Let's say, if you're not, especially if you're not a vegetable eater. So if you're not a vegetable eater, or your household is not, you could add, let's say, maybe I'm just gonna try a bit of carrots a day, or any vegetable that you like. And then after that, once you start that, maybe I should add more and add more, continuously adding more, rather than, overwhelming yourself with too much. And then that will take time. Yes.
Baby steps are so underrated.
Yes.
Okay, Rahul, just bringing it back to the study, I think personally, one of the things that jumped out to me was this high percentage of people across different age groups stating that mental health is one of their top concerns. Now, this mental health thing, we've been hearing about it a lot, especially since the pandemic, where it kind of became normalized. And I guess I'm just wondering, really because we're talking about something not tangible, like there's no tumor, right? There's no clogged artery. Beatrice, is there anything that we can do diet-wise to kind of assist our mental health? And Rahul, I know there's a shortage of mental health practitioners, like psychiatrists, psychologists, and we're not hitting the ratio that we should here in the Philippines. But what can Manulife really do to help that, or even other insurance providers?
First of all, just like you mentioned, we acknowledge that it's a very complex, landscape that we have to navigate. But there are a few things that we've started to do. First is allowing people to share about mental health, because it starts being a stigma. And I think giving a safe space for people to talk about it, bringing it up in media, bringing it up in researchers, we are making it feel okay for people to talk about it. And I think that exactly is a very important first step of acknowledgement, and we see it in our survey. And we're quite happy that now people are willing to talk about it, and that's why it has come up, both anxiety and depression has come up as amongst the top three concerns that that our customers are sharing now. Now, that's one. Secondly, we are also partnering and exploring how we can bring the support that some of our customers need on these things from actual practitioners or experts into our products as benefits. We haven't done that as yet. We are still exploring because there is complex, pricing involved and so on and so forth. But that's our future state where we would want these benefits to be extended to our products so that people can reach out to the right set of treatment that they would want to deal with it. The third is that there are a lot of causes of these, and some of them can be avoided through our advocacy. For example, financial, lack of financial planning or lack of financial preparedness can create stress, right? And that is where we are promoting, and I love Arvind's point of how we can instill the habit of savings. I have been personally very close to two cultures. I've been born and brought up in India, and then I moved to the Philippines. I've been here for 15 years. And one of the, going back to Arvind's point, habits that we are taught as kids in India is, for everything that we do, for right behaviors, for household chores, we are given some money. And then there's a money bank that we are supposed to put that money in. And the amount of money that we put through that process is what we use to buy our gifts when we have our birthdays. So that habit of earning a certain amount of money on a regular basis, either through the right behaviors or the household chores, and then saving it and then rewarding yourself through that savings is an ingrained culture in India. So that's why it's so normal to us to save the day we start earning. So, again, some of these things where we allow our customers to be financially much better prepared will, we are hoping that it will lessen the reasons why people feel stressed, people feel, non-prepared for the future. So those are some of the things that we do through our advocacy.
Beatrice, nutrition and mental health.
There's a huge
Is there a correlation?
There is a huge one, especially with the food. So ideally, the ideal diet that's good for your mental health is Mediterranean diet. So it's mostly whole foods, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean meat, and then limit sugar, refined sugar, because it's highly inflammatory and it does affect your brain cells. And then third is really managing stress at the end, because they all go hand in hand. So even if you eat the right foods, even if you limit sugar, but if you're stressed, so it's also not gonna work at the end. So you have to manage all three. So Mediterranean diet, it's really good for your brain, and also limit sugar, limit processed foods, and third, manage stress.
Or one, have you ever had a point in your life where you kind of got really stressed and it's affected your physical well-being? Because sometimes it happens, right? You're so stressed, then all of a sudden your stomach hurts and you have acid reflux or migraine.
Yeah, I think it's usually correlated. Things like stress and sleep are usually things that we don't necessarily think about when it comes to lifestyle, nutrition, and well-being. Sleep is paramount, really important, but every person has a different rhythm, so it's just kind of finding, is 6 hours good for you, or is it 10 hours, depending on where you are. Me personally, it's 7 hours, that's my magic number. And regarding stress, thankfully, now I'm 37, I've kind of developed some sort of stoicism. I used to be very reactive to problems, and that would just make me unable to make decisions in a right state of mind, and those decisions could end up being me not making the right decision with food and eating something really high in sugar and processed fat, and then it's a cycle, and then after eating that, you kind of feel heavy and lethargic, you can't concentrate. So it really is all related. So now, I tell this, I have 32 kids in my company. They're all younger than me, and I kind of am like a father. And we kind of practice things like stoicism and how to react to situations and focus on solutions. And you can tell people are really more engaged. And everyone at the company has the benefits that you spoke about. We all have gym memberships that are sponsored by the company. And implementing all these things throughout the years have really developed a more productive and efficient team.
Oh, that's great to hear. From a public health perspective, Dr. Tayag, what are you seeing in terms of Filipinos or mental health, and how mental health does affect physical health? What do the numbers say?
Years ago, we had a survey among government offices trying to find out the mental health issues or conditions that are prevalent among Filipinos. So it's kind of a surrogate survey, not actually doing a survey among Filipinos, but only restricted to government offices. And surprise, the number one mental health condition mentioned in that survey were phobias, the fear of, okay. But of course, depression and anxiety ranked also high in that survey. And nowadays, mental health issues they still have the stigma, the discrimination, it's taboo. But many personalities would like to share their experiences, and we hope that this actually helps and that they don't mimic, and so therefore they run into more problems. The National Mental Health Act actually was aimed at making sure that mental health becomes a priority among Filipinos because it was already anticipated with the stresses in our environment that mental health conditions will be an epidemic. And so, but during the pandemic, the implementation of the law was sidelined because we had to focus on COVID. But now we're picking up the pieces, and so we hope that mental health becomes something that's high up there. We would rather say that there's no health without mental health.
Very well said. As we wrap up, just as a final word, I suppose I'm going to ask each one of you to give one tip that you think people here, every one of us, can actually stick to for 35 days, because Beatrice said that's how long it takes now to build a good habit. So we're going to try that. Just one tip that everyone here can actually easily incorporate into their daily lives. Okay, we'll start with you, Beatrice.
Alright, so build a habit. But more than that, be kind to yourself. Let's say if you're not reaching your goal yet, be kind to yourself enough wherein you would eventually achieve your goal once you start building smaller but healthier habits. I think that's what it is.
Okay, great tip. Dr. Tayag?
Breathe. Do you know how to breathe? My watch tells me to breathe. Okay. Well, I have a formula. It's the 6-7-8. You inhale for 6 counts, hold it for 7 counts, then exhale for 8 counts. Can you do it? If you can do it, now you know how to breathe. Thank you.
Erwan?
I think people need to develop a framework of discipline. Now you don't do it so much before, but before, when I was a kid, you do something bad, you get a slap on the bum. That doesn't really happen anymore. So how do you implement that as an adult? So what I like to do is, before tackling any health or nutrition aspect of my life, I will journal for a week, everything I ate, everything I drank, everything I did, understand where my baseline is, and then decide what are the things that I want to focus on moving on. So let's say I want to stretch every day, I want to walk 10,000 steps, I want to eat 3 meals a day, and I want to sleep 6 hours a night. So those are the 4 goals that I have. I will write those down and then make sure to put a start date and an end date in terms of my commitment period. And then every day, kind of like a test, you need to write down whether or not you've accomplished those 4 goals. And if you haven't, you need to tell yourself why in written form. So basically look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is why I wasn't able to accomplish this today. What you'll quickly realize, it really comes down to just not wanting to make the time for it. But keeping yourself in check and keeping yourself disciplined is really important. And writing it down kind of just makes it so true that it's hard to kind of say, ooh, it
I
wasn't
see
my
what you
fault.
did there. It's like you have a contract with yourself.
Exactly.
And a reminder and an accountability form. Rahul?
So I'll
Just to wrap?
go to nutrition and diet. I know, keeping a regimen of strict nutrition and diet is difficult and challenging, but I'll give you one single, small and easy tip. Cut down on the extent of sugar that you consume on a daily basis, to whatever extent that you can. To whatever extent that each one of you can. And when I say sugar, it's not just the sugary drinks, but there is sugar in so much of food that we eat. So cut down on whatever extent of sugar that you can, and that will really do a big service to yourself.
Okay, I felt really bad. That really hit me. I'm just kidding. Okay, at this point we have time to entertain 3 questions from everyone here. Okay, we'll start with you. So please introduce yourself.
And then for Manila Bulletin, it was mentioned by Dr. Tiger here that, of course,